Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thank you as always for tuning back in. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Layla, the Lenormand reader, and I use the amazing Lenormand deck. Have a look at the links that I have for you so you can explore and master this amazing deck. Welcome to a new Pick-A-Card reading. I am very happy to be doing them again. I'll be doing an update video as to why, and to tell you more about why I had to put them on hold for some time and give you other updates that I had been up to. So thank you for bearing with me through this, and I also want to say thank you for asking for the Pick-A-Card readings. I've got them throughout the comments and more recently on the survey I did about the monthly layouts. So I appreciate the confirmation that you're interested in my Pick-A-Card readings. And the most recent suggestion that I got for a Pick-A-Card is a career one. I've done them before. Let's do a fresh one. I'll be doing a line of 7, a triple line of 7. I think you've seen these before if you've been on the channel. And we're going to use all 3 decks for each of the readings. But I do have 3 charms here, so for 3 different readings. I've got the mini Broom, and I've got here a Tarboosh. This is a hat in the Middle East, and this is a little backgammon game. So these are actually from Damascus. I found them so cute, and I decided I'm gonna pick a few of them and I use them in the Pick-A-Card readings. I do want to introduce you to a 4th one. This is a tabla. This is the Arabic drum. So I'm not using this one today because we're doing just 3 readings, but I thought I would show you the collection of these super cute Middle Eastern charms. Okay, so the career Pick-A-Card for today. So we can keep it general, but we could also maybe focus on what is ahead, and I would say a bit more of a near term. So let's focus on maybe a 3 to 6 month horizon. That tends to be pretty reasonable for career progress and changes or improvements. And also let's take away some advice. So as usual, you will find the timestamps for each of the charms. You can pause the video and decide which one of these charms you want to pick for this reading. And I think some people like to choose 2. Of course, it doesn't make sense to choose all 3, so maximum 2, I would say. But because it's just 3, I think 1 is reasonable. So I will see you in your Pick-A-Card, and I think I'll go in this order just as they are. Okay, starting with the reading for the little Broom charm, I'll put this aside and I'll put these 2 decks aside. I'm going to start with the Zen deck, and then I'll move on to the Silhouettes deck and then the Terra Lenormand. So let's go ahead and deal out the first line of 7 to see what is ahead for you career-wise and what you should take away from this. Hopefully there are some developments that you want to see materialize. Okay, here is the first line of 7, and I think from the get-go it looks really first of all, it looks really aligned with the topic. We have the fox and the ship, and these are really good for work, and the dog is often a card of colleagues or the employee. And so right from the get-go, we see cards that are aligned with the topic. And also we see that there is movement and progress. We have the road and ship, which is great for movement, and we have the letter in the middle, which points to news, communication, and interaction. And we have the fox, heart, and dog. And I think these are really good cards for getting a job or getting a new colleague, or perhaps hiring if you're in business for yourself. So from the beginning of the line, the road with the man and ship, it's very likely that someone travels, or maybe someone visits, or perhaps you visit the person, or there are other kinds of movements and arrangements that get you to be in touch with this person, if not meet with them. The letter in the middle really focuses on the interaction. The letter is a card of news, of information, and it can also point to contracts and agreements, documents and paperwork that is in focus for you when it comes to work and career. And then the fox, heart, and dog. Well, I think this is a triplet that can be read in a very clear way, and it suggests that this is a job. It's not necessarily a new job. We don't get the child or endings to suggest something new, but I would think that because of the changes and the happiness of the heart, it can point to something new. Otherwise, it points to improvements. I think even though the fox is sometimes a bit tricky with feeling relationship cards, it's still a really good job card. And also on the job, the traits of the fox are often called for. So I'm not seeing this as negative. Yes, you always have to be careful with people at work. I don't think this is new or special. But I think these cards, are, especially following the earlier cards, they point to a job, positive interactions with colleagues, some kind of collaboration or a partnership, or it could just refer to you and suggest that you're employed or you get a project or some kind of opportunity here. So from the get-go, we see some really good cards when it comes to work. Now the letter, I want to focus on this a bit more. The letter is a card, like I said, of paperwork and documents and interactions and exchanges, but it is also a card of detail, and the fox can highlight this element. I want to suggest that you be careful with reading between the lines, with reading the fine print. Even if the line looks promising and there's progress and forward movement, it pays to pay attention to the details and to read between the lines and to double check everything. That's in case this is referring to documents and things like that. But also when it comes to interaction and communication, whether it's verbal or written, and I have to say the letter is normally written and not so much verbal, but it can be stretched, of course. Focus on what you're saying and to be careful about, what you're communicating. And the fox can also suggest an element of discretion and keeping some things to yourself. So again, the element of diplomacy and tact, always very helpful in the context of work and also for getting the things that you want. When it comes to the heart, I have to say that with the heart and fox, it can suggest feeling half-hearted. So sometimes the fox and heart can mean not being genuinely interested in something or not really being into it fully. Now, if that's the case for you, I still think it's fine. I still think the opportunity overall is going to be worth it, even if not everything about it is like turning you on, let's say. And also, if there are some people around you whom you don't really like, you don't want to show that, that's not the right time, okay? So there is progress, there are positive exchanges, but just keep in mind, the element of being strategic, careful, and overall, just careful with everything. Also, backing up here, the man, who this man is, can represent just about anyone. The man and woman cards are very flexible, and so they can represent anyone. But typically, they are people who are relevant to you, so they have a pretty important role in the situation. So who this person is flexible. First, it can represent you. Second, it can represent someone who you are in contact with. It could be the person that brings you this opportunity, and it could also be the same person that we see possibly at the end of the line. So this could be an opportunity for collaboration, for getting a new job or improvements on the job, and there's definitely progress. So I would say really nice cards, even though actually they're kind of neutral. In the context of work, they are aligned and they bring opportunity and progress. So I think this is a really nice line to start off with. Let's draw our second line. And the second line, I am using my own deck, the Silhouettes deck. Let's see what we get on top of these cards. Okay, here is the second line, and I'm seeing quite a lot of parallel between the two lines. We've got the man in both, we've got the ship in both, and we have another movement card like the rider, another tact and diplomacy and sometimes deceptive card like the snake, and we have the coffin, which is a helpful card in this context because I think it's moving towards a new job or a new situation within the job. Now, I have to say that the snake is challenging. It is more toxic than the fox. In fact, I don't think the fox is toxic as such. It's, it can be a bit deceptive, a bit tricky, those types who are more or less selfish and self-interested. But the snake is a bit sharper and a bit meaner. And I think it's a different energy in general. So seeing it with the man, bear, and snake can be pretty tricky here. I think in this line, you're going to have to be, there is a focus on being careful. It's more emphasized, and it's like it's more alerting to you than in the first line. The man and bear often represents someone in authority, as does the tower, actually. So this could be a boss, or maybe someone on that level, or someone of influence. In the context of work, it's more likely a boss. And with the snake and tower, there's definitely some things that you don't want to bring up, and you definitely want to keep under your hat. So if this is about your plans, which it probably is, about the changes, you have to wait for a while, probably, because the tower is a card of time and longevity before you make a move. So I think this line is bringing up the change that comes once you get news or that opportunity that is very well captured in the first line. You definitely don't want to share your plans with management, and I would say even colleagues. I know I'm not getting this right here, but because of the snake, being so sharp and alerting, I think that you just want to be careful overall, certainly starting with management, but overall. In another sense, the snake is a card of turning away. It can point to moving away, leaving, and often quietly. And this is actually really well supported by the last three cards. These are so clear. We have the Rider and Ship and Coffin, and the Rider and Ship are both travel cards. And when we see something like the Coffin or an Anchor at the end of movement cards, it is very clear that this is arriving or completing and finishing the journey. So in this case, I think it can point to the resignation if you're making such a big step as moving jobs, or the completion of a project, or an involvement with someone. So I think this second line is telling us about the how to end your current situation on the job or whatever work situation you're in now. And the message is very clear that it brings an ending. The fact that the tower is in the middle, and the tower is a card of longevity and things taking time. And we also have the snake, which adds to the slowness. And even though the rider is fast, everything else is kind of slow. So I really think that it can take more time, possibly more time than you want or anticipated. I'm not saying that this is tragic, but I think patience is key. It might be out of your hands, but it can also be part of maneuvering, the whole transition in a smart way. So I think this is a very clear confirmation. Now, it's possible to read this line in another way. It's possible that there is a manager who leaves, or someone else with a certain level or some kind of dominance in your work environment could be leaving. We have this situation here and an ending here. So if this person is leaving, it's possible that probably he falls out from the whole situation, from the whole work situation, or perhaps there's an issue between managers, things like that. There can be like a bit of a unhealthy competition here because of the bear and snake, and this could lead to endings and changes in the situation. Probably, this person leaving. That too is a scenario. And maybe if that's the case, then in the top line, revisiting it in light of this possibility, it's possible that you hear that this man is leaving, and actually this makes you happy. So it creates space, it creates some kind of opportunity, or just an overall, like possibly relief, or just ease, I can say. So this is also a scenario. Now we're going to draw the last line with the Terra Lenormand this time, and let's see what else we get about this and on top of these cards. This deck is kind of sticky. I sometimes have a hard time getting these cards off, or maybe it's still new. I'm still breaking it in. Okay, here's the man again. We have 3 men. All right, okay. And we have the snake again, and the bear. So we've got the bear twice, the man 3 times, and the snake twice as well. Yeah, so when we do the columns, we'll also review the recurrent cards. So the ring, really focusing on relationships or commitments and involvements, and the man again focusing on this person. And the snake here is a little bit off, I think, but you know, I don't think it's playing the same role as it did in the previous line. But we're definitely focused here on a commitment or a relationship, which I think is your involvement at work, or your the commitment to work, or the contract and things like that. And that's going to come through definitely in the middle column. So let's back up here. We have the birds with the bear and mountain. And the ring. So the bear and mountain often represents someone who is based in a different location, and it can be also online. And with the bird, obviously there is a conversation or some negotiations or you know, interaction, just like we saw with the letter. And the ring, I think, is going to bring an agreement. So I think in the first part of the line, it's very clear that you are finding work or committing to projects and getting involved in something. And I think it looks strong. I mean, the bear and mountain is strong. We have the bear twice. So I think it's looking solid. These are strong cards that sort of stick. Now, the snake, man, and tower, this can be a couple of scenarios. For one, it can be similar to what we saw in the first line. And we have very, the same cards also close to each other. So we have the man and snake here right next to each other, and we have the man and snake here. They're not too far from each other. So it does seem to bring up this person again. Now, like I said, the snake can be about turning away and moving away. And the tower, we have the tower twice actually as well. The tower is also a slow card. So when I see these 3 together, I am again reminded of this need to be roundabout with certain people, probably people in authority like your manager, or someone else you're accountable to. And the changes that you make are going to have to be calculated and probably pretty slow, and you definitely want to keep some things under your hat. So it sounds like you are agreeing on an alternative job or something else, and while you're doing that, you don't talk about it with your current manager, with your current setup or situation. And when time comes, I think you're also going to need to navigate this carefully. I have to also wonder if maybe you're getting out of a contract, and that is tricky, that maybe you shouldn't, and you're trying to find a way out of this. So this might be something you have to negotiate carefully and maneuver. So in a nutshell, the snake, man, and tower here can refer to the current situation, whereas these cards are about this new arrangement that you're after. Another possibility is that this triplet here, and this person, whoever he is, refers to the new arrangement, or the new people, or this engagement here that you're pursuing. And during this time, or I would say at the outset, as you get involved with this, it's important to also be careful with certain people, and probably someone who is in authority, because this is a tower as well. And it often refers, a bit like the bear, and like we saw here, it refers to people who are at the top, if you like, or higher up. And so I think it could be both, that the whole transition and the old and new situation calls for tact and maneuvering. And so, it doesn't have to be one or the other. Now, I realize that the snake is a bit tricky, and it's not, the most pleasant of cards, but I have to say that the rest of the line is kind of neutral, and so the focus seems to be on this involvement and your commitment, and making it like strengthening it, like getting into it and working through it. So with this said, we can look at the columns here. It's always exciting because it brings the lines together. And like I said, there's quite a few recurrent cards. So the man figures in all three lines. So it really highlights the focus on this person and the need to negotiate or collaborate with this person. We see the tower twice. Once it's in a central position of a line. And that can refer to organizations, the admin stuff, respecting authority and, being sensitive to authority, and also the element of time. We also have the snake twice, which adds a really strong element of calm and being strategic and calculated. And yes, the bear twice, and actually in the same column, which also has a double effect of power. So some really nice multiplicities here. I'm just checking, I'm just going over the cards to see if I missed any of these recurrences. No, I think that covers them. So the triplets. The first one is the road, man, and bird. Actually, this is very similar to what we see at the top. There is some travel, movement for the sake of a conversation and negotiations. So it seems to be key, and of course the man figures in all three. It seems to also be what kicks off maybe the process, that you have news, a conversation, which we saw through the letter in the middle of the top line. So it's important to have that conversation, ask questions, negotiate, see what you can get out of this opportunity to decide if you can actually make such a change. The man with two bears, this is quite powerful. The bear makes everything big. So it could be someone pretty important, and it can also emphasize the need for you to step up to the relationship and to be there, to be present, and to have also confidence in yourself. So you want to tap into this person because it sounds like it's someone who can support you. I still think that because of the snake in different lines, it doesn't mean you can totally rely on them, and it does call on you to be strategic and calculated, but I still think that you've got to tap into this person. Now, the ship with the snake and mountain is actually a really clear message of a roundabout path. So specifically the snake and mountain, I often take to suggest going around someone's back, in a most literal way. But it is also that winding path, like going around the obstacles, going around the mountains and the blockages, or, these this tall obstacle in front of you. And the ship and snake is also about that. So it can point to a roundabout path. So it's very clear with both cards next to the snake, suggesting the same thing, the same idea in both pairs. It's very clear that a roundabout approach and a patient approach is going to be necessary. Now, the letter, tower, and ring is great here for suggesting a contract in the most direct ways. By themselves, the ring and letter can suggest a contract, and so with the added element of the tower, which is often an administrative, legal kind of element, it's very clear that you could get a contract and you can get a deal. Now, if this is about you getting out of the deal, it's this is going to be key because it might be a bit tricky, because of the snake on either side of this middle triplet. Like we have the snake right next to here and the snake right next to the ring, so very close to this middle triplet. If you're trying to get out of something, you're going to have to be careful about how you navigate this. And the triplet can apply to both, what you're getting into, what you're getting out of. Here's another very clear suggestion of a roundabout approach. So this is really emphasized in your cards. We have the fox and snake on either side of the rider. The rider is a card of movement and moving ahead, going after goals. And on either side of it, we have the fox and snake, whereas here we had two movement cards on either side of the snake. So it's very interesting, the mirroring here. So again, another very clear message to you that the changes, the steps that you take, you're going to need to be very careful. I have to say it's really emphasized in this layout. So I have to wonder if it's even about treading on eggshells. So that's a very key takeaway from these cards. Now, The hardship and man is really nice. It's a very bright combination. I have to say everything else is either a bit tricky or just neutral, but this combination is a bright combination. It is positive and it's really optimistic. The ship is about going after goals. It's great for travel, for movement, for progress. And with the heart, it sounds like you are happy moving in a direction with this person or with the help of this person. It seems to me that it's the same guy or gal. It can, it can sort of be flexible, but it's very key. This person is really key for your next steps in your career. And here's a clear one: the dog, coffin, and tower. This is definitely the end of a phase, probably a long phase, and it could also be ending a connection with this tower, which represents your organization or a workplace. The dog can represent you, but like I said, it could represent someone else leaving. But I think it's most likely about you leaving because the reading is about you first of all, and second, we have more cards that point to that direction than about it being someone else, especially with the middle cards, which are so focused on a contract and getting a deal or that commitment. So it looks like you successfully leave the current job after probably a long time, and we also have the tower in the middle of the whole spread. And but I have to say the transition is slow and stretched out over time and tricky and requires a lot of silence, a lot of strategy. So they're very quiet cards, but they do arrive at a point where you're pursuing something that makes you happy and you're able to end the current situation, the current job, or the current phase within your work situation, whatever it looks like exactly. So overall, Broom, Little Broom group, we're in for a change, but it's a slow change. A slow change, and the reason it is slow is because two things. One, you're finalizing the change or the new situation or the new job, and two, you need to navigate your current situation on your way out. So it looks like both require time and patience. So it looks like there's not a lot, but some tricky things need to fall into place before you can actually end your current situation. And it's really interesting how there's a progression from the beginning to the end. So overall, I hope you are looking forward to a change, because there's definitely a change in the cards, but the message and the advice and the guidance are very clear. This can take time, and I would even say that you should take your time. That's what the cards would advise, so that you can navigate this in the right way. And also, I would think you don't want to move to something that is not, better than where you're at. So, you're making sure that you land on the right deal or the right collaboration or project, and also you want to review everything legal and otherwise in order to move forward. And then it's about navigating the transition out of where you are, and finally it comes to an end. So it feels really slow, but it is in progress. Let me know what you make of this reading. As always, I look forward to your thoughts and feedback. Let me know who this person was. Maybe come back to let me know, because like I said, it could take some time. As always, as you know, I like to read your comments and I appreciate your perspective. Thank you for tuning into this Pick-A-Card. Leave me a comment of how you liked it, and also let me know what other Pick-A-Card readings you'd like us to do. I'm also going to run a little survey about that. Thanks again, and until next time, take very good care of yourself. Okay, welcome to the second group. This is for the little hat, or what we call the Tarboosh. We are going to put it aside and draw your triple line of 7 or a 3D line of 7. We're going to start with the Zen deck, and then my own deck, the Silhouettes deck, and then the Terra Lenormand. So let's put these two decks aside and let's draw your first line of 7. And like we said, we are looking at what's ahead for you career-wise, some guidance, and I also suggested a 3 to 6 months timeline. You might like to adjust that, but I think that's often reasonable for a career reading. So let's deal out this first line of 7. Okay, here is the first line of 7, and it is looking really nice because of the flowers mainly and with the birds. The birds in the middle is a card of conversations and discussions and sometimes negotiations, and with the letter it really emphasizes this part. And actually this side of the line is so clear about a contract, an agreement, an offer. It is so clear. It's as clear as it gets. The ring is a card of relationships and commitments, and the moon is often a card of offers, and the letter is about paperwork, contracts, documents, and also communication. So right from the get-go, we have a very clear message of an offer that comes through. Now, earlier in the line, we have the mouse and bear, and this can point to some challenges and possibly even losses. And the bear can be a card of management or a boss or someone in a certain position. So I have to suspect that there might have been some problems with your boss or another person of influence in your work situation, whether you're employed or self-employed, or you know, whichever way you work. The bear suggests someone who's pretty important. And the mouse points to problems and issues. Now, usually the mouse is little annoyances here and there with people. It tends to be doubts and mistrust and things like that. But with the bear, it can aggravate the mouse a little bit, and it can mean that things were actually bigger or more problematic. Now, the flowers is a lovely card for renewal and happiness and optimism. It's also a great card of forgiveness. And so with the birds, we see here that a conversation renews the connection and heals the issues. So this is a very nice message. Now, in view of the earlier cards, I really have to wonder about if these cards, this contract or offer on the side of the line, I'm not so sure this is necessarily a new offer or a different job. It can be, but I think because of the flowers being a card of renewal, it can mean that you're able to agree on something moving forward within the current situation that you're in. It can bring up agreements, and I have to say in this context, it's a good idea to get things in writing and also to check the details and to ask questions to make sure everything is clear about this agreement moving forward. So I don't think it's necessarily a new offer, but I do think that there can be some improvements in the situation that you're in right now, and that you can agree with this person or with the situation in general about your commitment moving forward. And I think it's a good idea to agree on some things in writing and also to negotiate and to ask questions where you need to. But I also want to add that you want to be open to this conversation. You want to be open to this negotiation and to improve things. So I would say don't give up on things so quickly if you're inclined to, because it can work out. But the way it works out is through a conversation and clarifying matters and clarifying the expectations, what is the agreement between you and this person or this, your workplace moving forward. And I have to say that this is also a really good combination or a set of cards for a collaboration. It can be within your workplace or something outside, maybe a new kind of collaboration. And of course, if you're in business for yourself, then it's something that you're proactive about. So there is definitely news of an agreement. It can be a job, a collaboration, an opportunity, a project, or a customer, or a deal of some kind, and it looks to be really positive. So the initial problems that you had faced are actually resolved, and the way they're resolved is through this understanding, by having a healthy conversation and managing the expectations and being clear about all of it. So from the get-go, I think these are some really pretty cards that are pretty promising for your work prospect, whatever they look like exactly. Again, be open to this conversation, be willing to negotiate and agree and work things out, be detailed, put them in writing and things like that, so that it's all clear and on the table. So really good cards for work prospects, whether they are new altogether or, they improve the situation that you're in. So let's go ahead and do the second line of 7. I'm using here my own deck, the Silhouettes deck, and let's see what we get on top of these cards. Okay, here is the second line of 7, and we have a challenging pair with the mouse and snake, and also with the heart. So the heart is usually happy, but with the snake it can be a bit more challenging. But what is really nice is the clover in the middle. The clover is an all-around lucky card, and so I think it helps overcome or prepare you or sort of make you a little bit immune to some of the challenges that we see here. On this side here, we have the man, bear, and cross, or cross, bear, and man. And obviously the man represents someone. I think the bear by itself represents someone, especially in a work context, because of that reference to a boss or someone of influence. And we have them next to each other. And notice that we have 2 bears. That's interesting. In the previous reading, I also got 2 bears together. I don't think it's a sign of anything. It might be a sign for me, or maybe a sign for you. Let me know. This triplet here represents someone who's pretty important. And the thing about the cross is that it can be a bit challenging. There can be some decisions that are pending, and also it can mean that some things are out of your hands. So it can mean that the situation or the improvements on the situation are in the hands of this person. So clearly there's going to be a focus on, like we said in the previous line, the conversation, and certainly this person has a say in what's going on. So you're going to have to accept that if you don't, and also respect the authority or the influence of this person, whatever role exactly they have in your work situation. And like I said, the clover is an all-around happy card, so it's really nice to see it after here and also close to these cards, because they help overcome them a little bit, even though they follow the clover. So I think this man is going to come through in a supportive way, and it's going to be a resolution just like we saw with the flowers after the mouse and bear. So I think this clover is lovely. Now the mouse and snake are challenging, and they can point to losses, and also I'm thinking sacrifices because of the cross earlier. The cross can sometimes be a card of sacrifice, but you need context for it to come out, and so I think the mouse and snake can suggest that. And the heart can suggest a bit of a disappointment, a bit of a heartache here. So I think taking the whole line together, and especially in view of the lovely clover in the middle, I think you might want to prepare to let go of certain things, and also to agree to put up with some of the more challenging aspects moving forward. And even if it's not, your heart is not in it 100%, or maybe you were hurt by something or someone, I think there is a resolution in view. There might be some things that still need to be ironed out, but I think for the most part, the overall picture can turn around positively for you, and you can move forward. So again, I think that this offer up here, the improvements here, the lovely clover, the supportive man, I don't think it's a job change. It's not looking so much so far. It can be for some of you, but I think the more likely scenario is that you're able to work on the issues and improve your current situation. So it might not call for a complete change. I'm not really seeing that. Now, at the same time, the snake can be a card of turning away and moving away, usually in the face of disappointments. But again, because of the clover earlier, which is very supportive, it really helps to shine a light and to lift off some of the challenges of the mouse and snake. I think you're able to work through this, and I think you're able to maybe swallow it, if you know what I mean, and work through the issues to turn the page, and turn things around and move forward to a better understanding, a better sense of commitment and expectations. Another thing is that in this situation, I think it's a good idea to keep to yourself some things. So if there are some things that you don't like, or some people that you don't like, or this person even whom you don't really like or tolerate in some ways, keep it to yourself. There's no need to really invest yourself in this part of it. Instead, you want to focus on the solution, on the better situation moving forward. I think there can be, some people that annoy you, some issues that you don't agree with. I'm not so sure it's the right time over the coming, 3 to 6 months, like we said. It's a good time to do anything about it. I think, again, it's more about being solution oriented. So be open to the support of this person, appreciate that they have a say, and also, if not everything is 100%, I still think the overall picture is fine. Something that is interesting about the clover is that with challenging cards, it can suggest something like a blessing in disguise. So maybe some things are looking difficult, or you don't like them, or you're not comfortable with them, but if you just deal with it a little bit, they could turn around and you could find that actually it was better this way. So that is often a message of the clover when it comes to challenging cards. And again, if there are some, there probably are, they're in every workplace, those people whom you can't trust everyone on the job, and you shouldn't. You should just maintain a normal kind of relationship with others. But these cards can really warn against deception and such folks. So I would say keep this in mind, and also keep it to yourself. So with this said, let's move on to the third line. And for the third line, we are using the Tarot Lenormand. It's also a very pretty deck. Let's deal out this third line and see what else we get about these cards. Okay, here is line number 3, and we've got the clover again, which is a very beautiful sign. Is it the only card that shows up twice? No, actually, the mouse. Yeah, the mouse shows up 3 times. 1, 2, and 3. And then we have the heart twice and the clover twice. And we have another person card, the woman. So when we read the columns, we'll check in with these multiplicities again. So actually, this is a really pretty line. Yes, we do have the mouse next to the woman, which can make it a bit difficult with the relationship. But again, it seems that on balance, you're happy with, you're able to turn things around, and you're happy with the situation. In the earlier cards here, where we have the clover, we have the dog and birds. So again, we're seeing this element of conversations. We have the bird twice. The conversation, the communication is going to be key. And with the clover and heart, it's going to bring a positive solution. So I really think, again, you should focus on, seeing the cup half full, not half empty. There is benefit to the situation. There are positive outcomes to the conversation. I think it makes sense to be a team player, to be open to what others have to say, and also to negotiate your good. So I'm not saying don't speak up for yourself. No, do that, but also, be part of the bigger team and these people here. So again, the heart is lovely in terms of happiness, and the ship is also great for work and projects. It's often a card of sales, of seeing the efforts bear fruit, the results of what you've been doing. So it's really nice to, it has this kind of momentum here, especially after the conversation and the challenges that we saw. So there is a push forward. Now I have to say that the mouse and woman can suggest someone who's a bit of a naysayer and someone who's a bit negative, and they could sort of be, or she could be, in the way of your progress. But again, the mouse is not very dramatic unless there are, more cards like the bear around it. And we saw this earlier, in the previous line with the mouse, snake, and heart. There are some folks who are not supportive, or whom you don't really like, or it's just the chemistry, the connection is not really working. But I think it's part of the deal. Like, we're not seeing these cards of separation and moving away from someone or a break off or anything like that. Instead, we're seeing lots of positive cards, and that sort of support you in in dealing with these people or in this relationship. So I think these are really supportive cards. And again, there is a focus on communication, the people cards, the managing trust and expectations, but still moving forward. So these are some bright messages, and I think they're really encouraging. So overall, it sounds like I'm not so sure there's a move or a job change or anything like that. I think there are improvements in where you are and some degree of compromise between you and other people, but there's definitely an improvement, and it's like there's a landing on a common understanding. Yes, there are some people who are just going to be the way they are, but I think overall for you, it's looking really positive. So if you're thinking of making a big change, I would avoid that. I would just sort of, see what can be done about the current situation and see if it can be worked out so you can, stick around a while longer in case you were thinking of a change. These offer cards here, they're often associated with a new job, but in the context of these cards, I'm not really seeing it. I think it's more about, like I said, fixing the issues. And of course, it doesn't have to be just if you're employed. Of course, you can be in business for yourself, or you do other things for your career or your activity. And again, these cards are often associated with something new, but here it sounds like it's more about tightening up the understanding, negotiating the situation to improve it, and I'm seeing sticking around with it more than anything else. So let's look at these triplets. So these are always fun to read, at the end of a 3D reading. We've got the clover twice, which I have to say is lovely because this is a very lucky card. So again, it can be a bit unpredictable. You might not, things might not fall into place in the way that you think, but they are, it pretty much looks like they're going to fall into place. We have the heart twice, which is also nice for how you feel about things. And we have the mouse 3 times. We have the mouse in the first line, in the second, and in the third. So this can highlight the issues. Yes, it can. It can make the reading a little bit challenging, but again, the mouse is not very dramatic, and instead it asks you to focus on details. So try to be patient with this, and I think you'll find that things work out. We also have the bird twice, so focusing on communication, and the people card. The man, the woman, clearly focusing on a relationship, as well as the dog, which is a card of friends and friendships, or often in work it's colleagues, customers, or people like peers or collaborators, and people like that. Any other duplicates? I don't think so. Okay, so let's look at these triplets. So the mouse, cross, and dog. So again, this is a clear combination for putting up with something. The mouse and cross is about dealing with something, and the dog probably points to a person, or a colleague, or someone in your work situation. It can also be yourself. It can also represent you as the employee. So again, a clear message here of sticking with it. Now the bear, and bird, this is definitely a conversation with managers, or between 2 managers possibly, or other people of significance in your work situation. And this calls for verbalizing certain things and talking about them, and it can also point to negotiations. This is a lovely line with the flowers and clover on either side of the man. So this person could be one of these bosses or someone else, probably the same, but it depends on your specifics. Lovely person, lots of support and understanding, and also compassion, I think. And you could also find a lot of creativity with this person if it involves things like that. So again, giving people a chance and the situation a chance, because positive energies can come from this. This is another lovely triplet with the bird, clover, and heart. Very positive conversation, negotiations, or even discussions and debates. And I think this really helps you heal your heart and get a sense of hopefulness again. In this triplet, we've got the ring with the mouse and ship, and I think this is lovely for committing to the path. Even though the mouse can be a bit bumpy, you know, I still think that the ring and ship commit you to the path ahead. And even if it's not exactly what you want, I think you're willing to, you know, you're going to be willing to stick with it. It's also advised to do this. And also, it is a good message for problem solving. So stick with it until you can resolve it and move past it. The moon with the snake and mouse is admittedly a challenging combination, and I think it's the most challenging of the layout, and also the mouse and snake together. Well, actually, they're the same. Here we go. And the moon, the thing about the moon is that it can bring also a shadow aspect. So that's the added, you know, the added challenge here to the snake and mouse, which we have twice. I think it's going to be, it can be potentially a bit tricky. Some people could be, you know, difficult. There might be some compromises, but I think, again, the overall layout is clear about focusing on solutions and making things work to move forward. And it could also be another message to really focus on the problem and to understand what it is. Try to maybe unpack it, you know, take it apart and look at it so that you can figure things out and move forward. And again, like if there are these challenging types, I think that's going to be maybe part of the deal for some time, but I think you're able to move past it at some point. Now, the letter with the heart and woman is very good news. I think it sort of reiterates a little bit what we see earlier, where we have good conversations with the bird and clover, and also the bird and clover here, actually same combinations. Yeah, I just picked that up, the bird and clover and the bird and clover twice. So very good conversations. And the letter and heart is also some happy news, some happy communications with this person. And again, who this person is, she could be someone we've seen before. She could be someone else in the situation. It depends on your specific scenario. But I have to say, there is a lot of focus on people. Yes, we have 21 cards, and that's a lot of cards, so it's likely to come up. But we have the birds twice with conversations, the dog, man and woman, the letter as well. So there's a lot of maybe back and forth, give and take, and collaboration. And I think that's definitely going to be key, along with accepting some of the more challenging parts to make the overall situation work. So I think this is overall a really bright message. We have a clear focus on problem solving, on dealing with things, on bringing them out, talking about them, and also at the same time sort of keeping to yourself some aspects so that you can deal with the situation. But some really positive things can come out. I mean, the clover is central to the whole layout, and we have it twice, and with the same, with the bird in both. So the conversations are going to be really productive, and I think it's a good idea for you to focus on, you know, to be optimistic about this and to give this situation a chance. Let me know what you make of this layout. I hope you resonate positively with it in the way that I did. Let me know who these people were and what this problem solving is, or what the more challenging aspects are. As always, I look forward to your perspective. Thank you for tuning in, and until next time, take very good care of yourself. Here we are in reading number 3, and this is for the little backgammon charm, which I think is so super cute. Let's put this aside, and we are going to draw the triple line of 7, or the 3D line of 7. We're going to start with the Zen deck, and then my own deck, the Silhouettes deck, and then the Terra Lenormand. So let's put these two decks aside, and let's start with the first one. And like we said, we're looking at this career reading here, and we are focusing on what's ahead over the coming 3 to 6 months. And it's good to see what unfolds and also what guidance we can take away from this reading. So let's go ahead and deal out this first line. Okay, here is this first line of 7, and it's looking mostly neutral, but it's on the positive side because of the heart, and all of the other cards are pretty neutral. Very clear here with this person in the middle, the man, and it clearly brings up a person in your work situation. Now the rest of the cards are very supportive, and they suggest sticking with this person, with this work situation, whether you're employed or you work for yourself. Whatever format that takes, that's up to you. That depends on your situation. But these cards are very clear and supportive of this person, and they strongly suggest sticking with the current scenario. The anchor is about staying, the tower is the long term, and the mountain is also solid, and so is the house. So it's very clear from these first 4 cards that this relationship is part of a stable situation, and that your situation is stable right now. So if you're thinking about changes, I would avoid this for the time being, and I would just commit probably over at least the 3 to 6 months horizon that we have in mind with your current situation at work and with this person. It is also possible that the mountain refers to a place abroad or in a different location or possibly online. So maybe you have a connection in that location or online. And also, the tower and mountain can suggest the deep past. So it's possible that you get support or a connection that you've known for a while that comes into the picture for your work and your career, and who proves to be really supportive. Now, the house with the heart and letter points to some really good news, or news that makes you happy thanks to the heart. And it is tied to this house, which we tied it back into sticking with your current situation. So I think you are going to hear from this person. You're going to hear good news where you are. Just work through this and be patient, and I think you'll find that you get the good news. So actually, a few things can come out of this, or can, the line can suggest a few different scenarios. One of them that comes to mind is that maybe you're wanting a promotion, an improvement, or you want you're after something with your work, and it revolves around this person, and you have to give it time. But if you do, and if you work through it, it looks like the good news comes through. So I think you can look forward to hearing the news that you want, and I think you can also achieve what you want. So, this bigger kind of combination here with the tower and anchor, these are really great cards for a sense of stability and the long term. So I wouldn't do anything to shake up the situation right now. I would be patient. I would wait for this person to come around, or I would reach out in order to go after what I want and get the interaction that I want for this good news. The house can also suggest a meeting, and we see it after the mountain, so possibly it's in a different location, in a different office, or maybe online. But I think a meeting would be helpful in order to make this happen, make this news happen, maybe sooner or in the way that you want. So right from the get-go, we have some very stable, solid cards. They encourage you to stick with your current situation, to give this person and this relationship time, and to also connect with this person in order to pursue your objectives. And I think you could achieve your objectives. I know they're not the brightest of cards, like we're not seeing the sun, the flowers, the key, and these big, bright, happy cards, but they are positive for work. They offer stability and a sense of consistency and longevity and security, and also this really good news that comes at the end of the line. The letter is not just about news, actually. It's also a card for paperwork, documents, agreements, and things like that. So it's helpful in the context of work to suggest that there are good outcomes and that you could land on something that you want. And like I think I said, the man can represent just about anyone, even a woman. They're flexible in this way. But the man and woman cards, they tend to represent people of significance to us. So who this person is specifically is going to depend on your situation, but typically it's someone who's pretty important. And so in the context of work, this is someone who seems to be part of the good news and the happiness that we see here, and also part of the longevity and the stability that we see in your situation. So really nice cards. I can also add that these are good cards for getting along with others, teamwork, there's mutual understanding. It sounds like a healthy environment where there is a good vibe. And if that's not what it feels like right now, I think the cards can be promising. But again, it might take a bit of patience or maybe connecting with a certain person in order to make that happen. But these are nice vibes. They're also stable and solid. So I think it's a really good message for work-related anything, actually. So let's move on to the second line, which we are doing with my own deck here, the Silhouettes deck. Let's deal out another 7 cards on top of these and see what else we get about them and what the line tells us as well. Okay, this is an exciting line, and I have to say it's in contrast a little bit with the second one. Well, maybe not so much, because there is also a slow element. Now we have here the child in the middle of the line, and the child is often a card of beginnings. On top of that, we have the coffin, and this is often a card of change, and we have it with the lily. So this is definitely the end of a phase. But I have to say that the cards are also slow, all of them, they're kind of slow. I know some people read the mouse as fast, but I can't ever see it this way, to be honest. The mouse brings annoyances and problems and little obstacles here and there. So I see these as causing delays and not so much speeding things up. So the idea with the mouse, yes, mice are speedy and they act fast, but the issues that come up with the mouse are probably going to slow you down or at least call your attention. The bear is slower, the cross is slower, and these cards are also slower. So it looks like there is a new beginning and a change that is in the works, but it sounds like it's about finding the right time and also how to transition into this new beginning. So there are a couple of ways to read such an idea in light of the first line, and that is that maybe you are looking for something new, but before you do, you have to have that connection that we see in the top line in place. So this relationship you have to build, you have to nurture in order to get the news that you want. And only then can you sort of have a plan or start to work on making a change. And we see these changes are really slow, and they could take time, and they can also be a bit tricky. Now the mouse is a card of challenges, not big ones, but with the bear, they can be bigger. And with the cross here, it's something of a burden, and it sounds like you need to deal with the issues of waiting for the right time or having the green light to make this change. The bear in the context of work is also a card of bosses, usually managers, and so there can be some issues with that person in your life. But again, the cross is about burdens and putting up with things. So it sounds like you have to put up with the situation for the time being. The child, like I said, is about new beginnings, and the snake can be about turning away. But it is also a very calculating and strategic card. So I think the message is very clear about being cautious, careful, and calculating about these first steps, and also about the ending that we see with the lily and coffin. These 4 cards are very much about endings in all combinations, any way you combine them. The coffin with the lily points to the end of a phase. The snake and lily can point to disappointment, moving away from a certain situation, and the child and snake as well. And any way you combine them, you will get the same idea that it is time for a change and it is time to let go. But again, the timing or the hows of this seems to be key, and it looks like things are on hold until you are able to. And actually, these cards here, the snake, lily, and coffin, I think they tend more towards the ending and the beginning that we see, but they can also suggest this need for patience and having to put up with a situation that is possibly a bit toxic, and until you have this this lovely message that we saw in the top line. So again, I think this second line comes a bit in contrast to the first line. It does change a little bit what we suggested. I suggested that maybe you stick with your work because it can work out, but maybe given the second line, you need to stick with your work or the situation right now until you have the green light and until you are able to transition. I also want to suggest that there seems to be some difficulties with people. The mouse and snake, they're not great with people. Even though in this line specifically we don't have people cards, but we do in the previous line. And also in general at work, we could pretty much think that some people need to be managed well and carefully. So keep this in mind, and also keep your plans to yourself until they can mature and until you have the green light and have a proper way to maneuver this. I do think that it could take the 3 to 6 month timeline that we have in mind. So be patient, hang in there, and in the meantime, work on this relationship that can pull you through or that can offer at least some good insights. So let's move on to line number 3. We have got the Terra Lenormand for this. And let's deal out cards on top of these, see what else we get about them and what this new line offers. Okay, here is the bird, moon, and road, and the cross is in the middle this time, and then we have the tree and the rider and bear. The tree, rider, and bear are lovely. Earlier, the cross can add a bit of heaviness, although the moon and road with the birds can be lovely. So the bird with the moon is probably an offer, and I'm thinking back to the heart and letter. And the road is about the path ahead, so I think an opportunity opens up. But I have to say that the road and cross brings an element of choice, and I think you could be, this could weigh on you a little bit, what kind of choices you make moving forward. So if this opportunity comes through versus the current situation and the timing and all of that, the idea of having to make the right choice can be in focus, and actually it is in focus. The bird and moon are bright cards. They're not the brightest of cards, but they do offer this idea of an opportunity or an offer. So I think that's also part of the inputs into these choices that you need to make. Now the tree is a lovely card, and with the rider and bear, these are really great cards for growth, empowerment, success, and possibly something like a promotion or improvements of any kind. The bear can also represent someone like a manager. We have the bear in here as well. Actually, in all 3 readings, the bear was quite salient in the layouts, which makes sense because the bear is often a card of managers in the context of work. Sometimes it's about competition. I think it came up this way in one of the readings, but often with the whip or something else like that. Here, with the rider and bear, the rider is another communication card. So there can be some discussions with certain people, probably managers, about your prospects or your options and how you move forward. And I think that's going to be key for your path as a whole. Now, I have to say that something that stands out is that I'm not so sure that within the 3 to 6 month period ahead for your career, there are clear changes. A lot of things are in the works, and it sounds like you need a lot of information, or you need to think about things, process things, consider things with others in order to make a decision about a new opportunity, or if you stick around, and how you do all of that. The cross and tree certainly invites you to take your time And the tree is often a card of, taking a step back and thinking about things from a different perspective as much as possible. And the rider and bear can also suggest getting in touch with someone or seeking the input of someone who's more experienced, a senior, a manager, or someone like that, and possibly not within your work. So I'm thinking maybe a mentor or someone whom you go to for guidance and things like that. Maybe this person can help you with your choices and your decisions. It might help with perspective and getting a sense of what things look like for you given these options. But it sounds like options are there. There are choices, there are options, there are people to offer you possibly opportunities and also insights. So you might need to take your time to consider what changes you make. And because of a card like the lily and the cross twice, we also have the anchor and tower. These cards, they suggest something like, along the lines of the long-term picture and how it affects your career as a whole, not just the job right now or the work you're doing right now. So the changes that you are considering could be bigger, and so it's worth taking a step back and considering them. So again, I think there are prospects for change. I think you're going to have options, but I'm not so sure how much you act on these options just yet. It sounds like you need to process things a bit more, figure things out more, and consider how these changes would materialize, considering the second line. So with this said, let's look at these triplets here along the columns. I want to note though that there are a few multiple cards. We have the cross that figures twice. We have the bear that figures twice, and I think these are the only doubles in the cards. Yes, I think so. So the cross really highlights this sense of importance, and you could be at a juncture in your career. It could be a critical juncture in your career. And the bear is very much a card of growth and empowerment, and it can bring into the picture managers, seniors, and other people who could hopefully be supportive. So let's look at these triplets. The anchor, mouse, and bird. So this is a bit challenging. The mouse and birds can suggest not so great conversations, potentially gossip. It's not the gossip combination, but maybe there are some, a bit of chatter like that. That's a bit annoying. The anchor is very much about, sticking with this. And also it would advise you not to get involved with gossip and things like that, because it's a card of boundaries. So it's really good with that. But I think the more likely interpretation of these cards is a bit of stress, a bit of anxiety, about this, the current situation, what to do, what not to do, or maybe the environment itself and the work itself. But certainly the anchor is very good at helping you stick through this and stand your ground and have confidence in yourself. This is a nice one with the tower, bear, and moon. I really think this is about promotion and growth. Both the tower and bear are about seniors, that sense of authority and importance, and the moon is often a card of offers and offers and honors, as well as invitations. So I think in the context of work, you could be pursuing a promotion, or you could get one at the end of the day. I'm not so sure within this month, but I think this is something that you could be pursuing. It's also great for support from management or people in authority. The moon is gentle, and so you could get some understanding from these folks up there. The mountain, cross, and road is quite a significant combination, mainly the mountain and cross, which can mean an important chapter in the making. And again, the child is at the center of the whole 3D line of 7 here. And the cross and road is being at crossroad, and we see this combination twice. So not only do we see the cross twice, but we see it in the same combination twice, even though the road is not, duplicated elsewhere. So the cross and road is very straight, in a straightforward way, crossroad. So again, you could have choices and options, and so you're going to be thinking carefully about this. But again, you could be at the doorstep of something pretty significant or a pretty deep change. The man with the child and cross can point to a new relationship, a new connection, or a new chapter with this person that we saw at the top. And the cross is a bit like with the cross and mountain here. There's a significant new beginning that is unfolding, underway, and it sounds like this person can bring it. And we did see in the top line that it's really a bright line, and that this relationship is supportive. So again, there are supportive people that could help you through. We saw this here, we see this here, and we see it in this column as well. The house with the snake and tree, this is probably about the changes and the moving away from this context that's represented by the house. And with the tree, there's an element of wisdom, but also slowness and the need to consider things carefully. I think this is central to your 3D line of 7 here. You can't rush through this. Several pieces are coming together and you need input and info and probably also quite a lot of self-understanding in order to make these changes. So take your time with this and take a step back to consider things. I have to also say that the house and snake can point to deceptive characters, possibly a toxic environment. And, this can mirror what we saw in this column, that there is chatter or, things behind your back and things like that. The snake is a lot better with this behind your back business. And so the tree is, I think the tree is, being a calm and cool and, a card of well-being. It really helps you take a step back and a distance. And the anchor in this triplet is very helpful with boundaries. So honestly, yes, there could be some issues around you. You're thinking about the change, but you're also good with it in the sense that you can. It doesn't have to get to you. Now, the heart with the lily and rider is great for making progress and pursuing things that you love. And I think with the lily being, this bigger life direction card of career as well, it really brings back into the picture this idea of this important chapter that is unfolding for you. And that's all the more reason why you want to take your time with these decisions and this juncture that you're at, because it seems to affect the bigger picture. But I think with the heart, lily, and rider, I think you're gonna be on the right track, or at least you're gonna make a decision or have an understanding of what you should be pursuing. And it could also be guidance and a suggestion for you to think about, what would make you happy? What is it that you want to pursue that makes you happy? And maybe that's also part of what you need to figure out before you make changes. Finally, we have the letter, coffin, and bear, and this could be an ending. This could be a resignation. This could be, I think it's the most likely interpretation in the context of work. But there can be also someone who leaves, or these kinds of changes within the workplace. Again, I think the most likely suggestion is that you make you resign, or you make a change. You end a certain connection, your involvement with this job, or the job altogether. The coffin is part of this line, which is, very much about this turning away, making a change, turning the page, and making a fresh start. So I think we're in for a new beginning for you at work, but not just at work. I think the bigger direction could be at play. A bigger life chapter could be opening up here. I don't think the steps happen or materialize within this phase. And of course, that's flexible. It depends on your mindset about this reading. But there is a clear focus on taking your time to transition, because different pieces are coming together. The choices that you're making, the options that you have, the support of other people, do they bring other opportunities that could help you make a decision, and also what you want to pursue, the best time to make this change. Honestly, there's quite a lot that it seems to be coming into this career picture for you, to help you make a change, and you definitely don't want to rush into making a change. It seems like this phase is very much about understanding yourself, what you want, and how your environment and other people and other opportunities can help you make the change. So again, these different pieces coming together, and you need to take all of it into consideration. So take your time and think about this. You also don't want to destabilize yourself, or put yourself without work, or do things like that when you are, you're redefining your purpose or aligning with some bigger goals or a bigger life chapter. I think it's possible to maintain a job or a work situation, whatever it is, while you are figuring these things out. And I think the reason that's helpful, just as a side note from my experience, is that you don't want more problems or distraction or negativity or challenges to interfere with the process of aligning with your good, so you can sort of make an effort to compartmentalize your work life while you figure out this new chapter that is unfolding. And I honestly, I get this question sometimes as to people who want to become readers. For example, they want to leave their corporate job, the day-to-day job, to become readers and pursue lovely things like Lenormand and tarot and all of that. And I think you don't have to put yourself in a difficult situation while you transition. So that's just a piece of my mind as a side note to these cards. So again, I think this is a slow process. It's a deep process that is in the works over the coming phase. So I wouldn't jump out into anything too radically. Instead, I would really gather these perspectives and these things that are coming into the picture, assimilate them and think about them to redirect into a new beginning. Let me know what you make of these ideas. Very interesting cards. As always, I look forward to your thoughts and your perspective. I hope you've enjoyed this pick-a-card. Let me know how you did. And leave me a comment about other pick-a-card readings that you want to see. I'll probably run a survey about that soon. Thanks again, and until next time, take very good care of yourself.